Hi, Christ is risen. I wanted to make this video, so if you're not from Romania, to give you a bit of context, we have presidential elections coming up this Sunday, and a big question that, as these things go, that's on everyone's minds is who do I vote for? And I wanted to make this video to answer that question of who I recommend to vote for. This doesn't mean that I'm some sort of reference figure for what telling you who to vote for. That's not the case. I just want to um, make note of my opinions and my take on things. So let me start off by saying I don't think that the correct answer for who to vote for lies in this or that other person. I think that the correct answer for who to vote for is to vote for ourselves. And of course, this doesn't mean it's unimportant whether or not we go to vote and put our stamp on a particular candidate. That's not what I'm talking about here. But I am talking about taking on more responsibility for changing things for the better in our own lives. Because no matter who ends up president in a country, in Romania or anywhere else, of course, he or she will make changes that will impact the context under which We live. We may have more hospitals or fewer hospitals, or more highways or fewer highways, or I don't know, some reforms that gives some people more rights or fewer rights, or what have you. And all of these things impact us in significant ways, of course. And I'm not denying that, and I'm not saying again not to go to vote, but I want to emphasize this idea that the responsibility for changing things for the better in our country is not actually in the government or in the president. It's in us. It's incumbent on us to change things for the better. Because the people that we see high up, right, in the government, in the presidential seat, whatever, those people are elected from among us. They're not different from us in any significant way. They're still people. I have this sort of running joke with my fiance that whenever we see this great person or this sort of um, public figure, we say to each other, this person still goes to the toilet just like us, right? They're people. They have some virtues, they have some vices. They will change some things for the better, some things for worse, and some things will just remain the same. Now, still, these people are from among us, and if we really want to see better candidates, better change high up, we should do our best to implement changes for the better in ourselves and around us. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. You don't have to like go to some protest or rally or whatever. You can do that if your conscience is telling you to do that. But it can also, this change for the better can be seen also in small decisions that we take every day. For example, if I go outside, if I go outside the apartment building and I see a piece of paper on the ground, I have one of two choices. Of course, I can think something along the lines of, well, just look at how uncaring people are. They just litter around the city and they don't give a damn about who has to pick up after them. Oh, what a terrible place to live in. Or the alternative is, okay, here's a problem. I see a piece of paper on the ground, it bothers me. I pick it up and I throw it away. Of course, the two perspectives aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, right? It's still unfortunate that someone littered, consciously or otherwise. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't take responsibility for fixing what I see as being wrong. Doesn't mean I should clean up after other people's mess. But it does mean that some things I can actually do to make things better in this country that I live in this society that I live in this community that I live in my own life. And no matter who ends up president, they won't come and pick up that piece of paper for us. They won't come and, I don't know, wake us up at 6 in the morning so that we can go to work, or they won't come do our night shift for us, or they won't stay in the hospital with our children who are sick, or they won't, I don't know, come bury some relative that just died. There are things in our lives that we have to live for ourselves. And of course, they are influenced to a greater or to a lesser degree by who is leading and who is making decisions that impact the environment that we live in, and so on and so forth. But we still have to live in that environment, and we still have more power than we think to change things for the better. Sometimes that means fighting the existing system, although I'm not a big fan of that sort of approach, because again, it sort of puts the responsibility on something other than ourselves. Right? I have to change the system so that my life and the lives of people who I care about is better. Maybe that's true, but maybe also I need to pick up the weight that is in front of me in my own life. Maybe I need to change myself for the better to make an improvement in my system of living so that others are better off and I am better off with them. We need to live more wisely, each of us. And that decision to live more wisely, I honestly believe this. Now, you may not agree, you may have a different approach on things, but my opinion on this is that changes in individual people's lives will show up in changes in collective decisions, in better decisions at the government level, let's say. And it will also lead to changes in who we see at the government level leading us. So, again, who do I recommend voting for? I recommend voting for ourselves. And again, this does not mean not going to vote or that our vote doesn't matter. But it does mean we should take some of that responsibility that we put on the shoulders of other people, of the people that we want to lead us. We should take that responsibility and put it on our own shoulders. We are the leaders of our own lives, and we should do our best so that we can live the best lives possible, no matter how our context changes. And that is up to us. And that's actually, it gives for me, this gives a lot of hope, because I know that no matter who ends up president in my country, some things will be better, some things will be worse in more or less significant ways. But I decide what I do with these things, with, of course, with the help of God, and with no small amount of effort. But but I hope you get my idea. I am very much recommending to take responsibility for the lives of, first of all, of ourselves, and then of the people around us, to make things better in that way, to move from the bottom up rather than waiting for the change to come from the top down. Okay, that's good enough for now. Thanks very much for listening, and yeah, good luck.